Well, hello everybody, welcome to our latest Railbookers webinar, where we'll be exploring all things Canada. I do hope you're doing well and that perhaps I can give you some inspiration today for your next trip away. My name's Sam, I'll be your host for today's webinar. And just before we jump in to our Canadian holidays, we're just going to spend a few minutes talking through Railbookers, who we are, and what perhaps we can bring to yourself and your holidays out to Canada and perhaps beyond. So first, let's have a look at why travelers love using Railbookers. So top middle there, very important, I think, to mention, especially in this climate, that we can book and travel from today all the way through to 2023. So if you're somebody that's looking to get out and about as soon as possible, and things have started to open up again, and you're looking to get out on your next holiday as soon as you can, then we can start to book trips for you as soon as later this week, even beginning of next week, Christmas markets, things like that. So don't hesitate if you are thinking to get away this year. Don't think that it's too late. Really, we can book anytime you please. As I say, all the way through to 2023. So if you are somebody that's planning that bigger trip, maybe for a special occasion, then we can book up to 24 months in advance. And of course, often, especially with these larger trips, the earlier that you make your request, the better availability there is, and sometimes the better pricing we can get as well. Also, good to mention that we do offer maximum flexibility on our trip. So we like to say, if the train goes there, so do we. So we can take you to any destination for any length of time on any day of the year, really. And you don't have to stick to the itineraries that you see on our website or on our webinars. They can be tailored to your specifications. Just give us a call and we can try and fit it around the train schedule for you. We're also the rail experts, of course, so if things are looking a bit too tricky, if you can't quite work out exactly how to get from A to B to C and you're looking for the best routes, you know, we can always give you that advice there. And if you don't see something that you like on the webinar or even on the website, do just give us a call, as we do have a huge selection of holidays, you know, stretching into the hundreds and hundreds of different options for you across Europe and North America. We have added to our number of brochures as well over the last 12 months. And we do have a host of digital brochures for you to download now, including our Amtrak Vacations rail holidays for USA and Canada, very pertinent to this particular webinar, of course. We also have our UK and Ireland independent rail holidays and a brochure on just Scottish trips as well. We found that the trips around the UK have become a lot more popular over the last 12 months. And we have cruise extensions, luxury journeys, and of course our Railbookers worldwide brochure, all available for you to download off the website. We offer 24-hour global support as well, very important to mention. Really what this means is it doesn't matter where you are in the world or what time of day it is, you should always have somebody that's available to speak to should you have any questions, queries or concerns on your trip. And we have offices in London, 2 in the US, in California, and just outside of Boston, Massachusetts, 1 in Toronto, and 1 all the way over in Sydney, Australia. Of course, we do work with all the major rail operators across Europe and North America. Via Rail, of course, we'll be looking at today in Canada, also Amtrak across the US, and those major operators in Europe, as I mentioned, Deutsche Bahn in Germany, Renfe in Spain, and the luxury operators like Belmont, who operate the Venice Simplon Orient Express. Having these partnerships allows us to get the best prices. It's what allows us to book up to 24 months in advance, and also to make those special requests for you, should you wish to have specific seating, for instance, on board the trains. And finally, just a quick look at how rail operators are maintaining a safe environment. Still very important to mention this. Of course, so facial coverings are required in stations and on trains for passengers and staff. That is across Europe and North America. Of course, there'll be continued and increased cleaning and sanitation at all stations and on board trains. And a majority of the tickets now are e-tickets. It is contactless ticket control, much like the airlines moved that way. You have your app on your phone now. Rail operators are moving the same way, just for extra hygiene. So most of what we send you now will be contactless. Okay, so let's move on to our first holiday. After all, that's what we're all here for, which is the Great Cities of Eastern Canada by rail. This is one of our shorter trips out to Canada. Perhaps if you've already traveled over to the Rocky Mountains, if you've already explored Vancouver, Toronto, maybe if you're not looking for overnight trains, you're looking for a nice week to 10 days away in Canada, you don't want to spend too much time on the train, but you do want to see some fantastic cities, then this holiday out to Eastern Canada is a great option. You've got 7 nights in Canada, seeing Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, and Quebec, and we do include sightseeing tours in all these destinations. So this is an 8-day holiday starting from £949 per person. Starting off in Toronto, the capital of the province of Ontario, of course. One of Canada's largest cities. I suppose you could describe it as a dynamic metropolis, almost a mini New York, soaring skyscrapers, the freestanding CN Tower, of course, dominating the landscape. Also lots of green spaces and parks. There's an area called Queen's Park in Toronto. So a really nice place to start your trip for a couple of days before moving on to the capital of Canada. So you're going to spend some time in Ottawa. And we do have a hop-on, hop-off tour of Ottawa included. Gives you access to over 75 major sites on board the route. You have the opportunity to see the embassies, Parliament Hill, the Prime Minister's residence as well. Also has the National Gallery of Canada in Ottawa. So very nice place to spend the day, despite being the capital, quite often overlooked, Ottawa. But we give you a full day there. And then it's off to Montreal for 2 nights, the largest city in the Quebec province of Canada. Montreal itself is set on an island in the St. Lawrence River. It's named after Mount Royal, which is a triple-peaked hill right at the heart of the city. Very diverse as well. The city is made up of lots of boroughs, neighborhoods ranging from kind of cobblestoned areas to French colonial areas, Gothic areas, very bohemian in certain parts as well. So very, very diverse, fascinating city to visit for a couple of days. And finally, you get a chance to see Quebec as well. We include a guided tour of Quebec. We get to learn about the city's French-Canadian history, also explore the castles as well. Take you to a famous area called the Place Royale, and also to one of the most photographed hotels in the world called the Le Chateau Frontenac. We don't base you in the Le Chateau Frontenac for our trips, but do have access there. So if you would like us to look at perhaps getting you a room there, we can do. But it's a very, very famous hotel, not just in Canada, but across the world. And you do get to experience the hotel on the trip. We also include a dinner in Quebec City as well for you at a popular local restaurant. So that's our Great Cities of Eastern Canada tour. 8-night holiday covering Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, and Quebec. Second trip we're going to look at today is a Canadian extravaganza. It's a 17-day holiday called our Ultimate Canada Coast to Coast. Actually has 5 nights on board the Via Rail services and 11 nights accommodation in all. Starting off over in Eastern Canada in Halifax, so you are still going to see Eastern Canada, Halifax, Quebec, Montreal, 4 nights there, including a night on the train between Halifax and Quebec. You'll get to spend 2 nights in Toronto, including a day trip out to Niagara Falls, then 3 nights on board the Via Rail service over to the Rocky Mountains. Does sound like quite a long time on the train, I know, 3 nights. It is 2 full days. The train departs in the evening from Toronto, arrives in the morning in Jasper. So it's 2 days and 3 nights, but it's a fantastic experience. It really is the best way to travel across Canada to see those different provinces and the ever-changing landscapes. And we'll talk a little bit later on about what life is like on board the Via Rail services Great food, great scenery, fantastic staff, really relaxing, comfortable rooms as well. So we'll have a look at it later, but if any of you are thinking, I'm not sure about spending 3 nights on board the train, believe me, I've done the journey. It really doesn't feel like 3 nights. It does feel like part of the holiday. And of course, it takes you right into the Rocky Mountains of Jasper when you arrive into the Rockies on board the VRL service. Those views of the mountains themselves are really jaw-dropping and awe-inspiring. So for me, it's the best way to arrive into the Rockies. And then you get 3 nights in the Rocky Mountains itself, 2 nights in Jasper and 1 in Banff, with a lot of excursions around the area. And then there's 1 final night on board the VRL service, and you'll finish with 2 nights in Vancouver. So like I said, this is really an extravaganza. It's 16 nights, 17 days, starting from £3,249 per person. Trip begins in Halifax, an Atlantic Ocean port over in eastern Canada and the provincial capital of Nova Scotia. Very famous for its maritime history. It's now a business centre, but it is known for its maritime history. The city itself is dominated by a hilltop citadel, a star-shaped fort completed in the mid-19th century. It also has lots of fantastic, unique waterfront warehouses, which recall Halifax days as a trading hub. We also have a couple of great tours for you to choose from in Halifax. We have a tour of the city itself, taking you to the major hotspots. And we also have a more kind of exclusive tour, which takes you out to an area called Peggy's Cove, which is famous for Peggy's Point Lighthouse. You take a trip along the shoreline with amazing views out from the coastline. You'll learn about the history and culture of this particular area of Halifax. Peggy's Cove is known as an artist's and explorer's paradise and has been for a couple of centuries now. It's a little picture postcard village on the Atlantic shoreline. So if you don't want to take the standard city tour, we do have the option of a more intimate, more exclusive tour of an area of Halifax called Peggy's Cove, and you can decide between the two. As I mentioned, you'll also get to experience a day tour from Toronto out to Niagara Falls. This is a full day trip, so you'll be transported from your hotel by coach out to Niagara Falls. When at Niagara Falls, you'll be able to take a boat out to get up close and personal with the falls themselves. You'll have a buffet lunch in one of the skyscraper hotels that overlook the falls, so you'll have a fantastic view of the falls while you have your lunch. You'll get some time to explore the town of Niagara itself, and there's also some wine tasting included in the tour before you head back to Toronto. You can see here this picture taken from a helicopter. There is a helicopter tour that's optional for you. It does cost around an additional $100. It's about a 20-minute helicopter ride up and above over Niagara Falls. Well worth doing if you've got a head for heights, and a nice little addition to the tour should you wish to take it. So nice to mention this one of our most popular tours, as you can imagine, a full day tour out to Niagara Falls from Toronto. We have a couple of nights in Toronto. It's 3 nights on board the train, as I mentioned, and you'll arrive then into Jasper. So the train will ride into the heart of the mountains and arrive in the picturesque mountain community of Jasper. You have about a day and a half in Jasper to enjoy this, clear mountain air, fantastic, beautiful surroundings of the Canadian Rockies that you can see there. Hopefully you'll get to spot some wildlife, elk, moose. The likelihood is you'll see a few bears while you're there. Black bears, of course. You won't see any brown bears and grizzly bears. They are cordoned off, so you can't access the areas of the national park where they might reside, but chances are you'll see a couple of black bears that might be roaming through the center of the town. And fantastic place to spend a couple of days just admiring the Rockies in all their glory. You'll then be transported from Jasper to Banff, and your journey to Banff will be a full day tour as you ride along the world famous Icefields Parkway, full of incredible sights, mountains, pine trees, lakes, valleys, gorges. You'll get to enjoy, again, the wildlife, breathtaking mountain peaks on this tour between Jasper and Banff. You'll also have the chance to visit the Columbia ice field, one of the largest expanses of ice and snow in the world, and you'll get to step on board what's known as an ice explorer for an adventure out to one of the glaciers there called the Athabasca Glacier. There's also a glacier skywalk, which we'll see a picture of a little later on, has an unobstructed view on a glass-floored platform that extends over the valley for some quite incredible views. But you do need to have a head for heights for that, believe me. And as I say, we'll see a picture of it a little later on. We also have lunch on this trip as well before arriving into Banff into the early evening. Just like Jasper, one of the most scenic towns there in the Canadian Rockies. So after your time in Banff, you'll head back to Jasper to pick up the Via Rail service for one final night on board over to Vancouver. Get some great views on that journey actually as you head through British Columbia and arrive into Vancouver. You'll have 2 nights in Vancouver. We do include a 24-hour hop-on, hop-off sightseeing tour so you can discover the many attractions of the city. Granville Island, very popular area as well. Gastown, the historic area of Vancouver, and known for its quaint charm, I would say. And also, make sure you head off if you can to Vancouver Island as well. We can add a tour out to Vancouver Island and the Victoria and Bouchard Gardens there, should you wish. So a really nice way to end the trip with a couple of nights in Vancouver. Okay, so the third trip we'll look at today is our Grand Circle of the Canadian Rockies. It's a slightly shorter holiday that centres around Vancouver and the Rocky Mountains themselves, but the one point of difference is that it includes the Rocky Mountaineer, Canada's luxury train service. Rocky Mountaineer isn't an overnight sleeper service. It takes 2 days to get from Vancouver to the Rockies on board the Rocky Mountaineer. It's all by day, and you do spend a night in a hotel in Kamloops, which is equidistant between Vancouver and the Rocky Mountains. And then you'll have 4 nights in the Rockies, so you'll get to experience Jasper and Banff, and we also include a night on Lake Louise as well before taking the Via Rail service again, so the overnight sleeper back from Jasper to Vancouver. So this is the Rocky Mountaineer from Vancouver to Banff via Kamloops, and then it's the Via Rail service from Jasper back to Vancouver overnight. So you get to experience the different options, different rail options in Canada, Via Rail and the Rocky Mountaineer. So as I mentioned, the Rocky Mountaineer is Canada's most famous train. It's a luxury service, impeccable service, really. It has its own train station. You transferred to the train station, you'll be welcomed there by one of the porters. They'll take your luggage from you straight away, take you into the atrium. There's a pianist, welcome drink. They'll give a speech. They literally roll out the red carpet for you as you board the train, and there's a welcome drink then as you arrive on board the train. It's very relaxed, very casual, very different to the Orient Express, the luxury train across Europe, which is far more formal. This is a relaxed, casual experience on board the Rocky Mountaineer. You don't need to dress up for the occasion, but nonetheless, it is very much a luxury service. As you can imagine, there's some incredible views of the pine forests, sweeping lakes, waterfalls. You'll get to see one of the most famous waterfalls in the area called the Pyramid Falls. And of course, you'll get to see the Rocky Mountains, Mount Robson being the most famous and the largest of the mountains. You'll get a great view of Mount Robson as you travel through the Rockies and into Banff. As I mentioned earlier, fantastic service as well. There's 4 or 5 attendants in each carriage, all extremely knowledgeable. I'll talk to you about the history of the area, the wildlife, the culture, food on board as well. So it really is a great immersive experience for the 2 days. And there are 2 different options, 2 different levels of service for you on board the Rocky Mountaineer. You've got Silverleaf or Gold Leaf carriages. Both are panoramic carriages, and all the food is freshly prepared on board. Here you can see a picture of Silverleaf. One of the differences in Silverleaf, again, compared to Goldleaf, is that alcohol isn't served on board with your food. You do have to purchase that separately, but the level of service that you get is exactly the same. The views, of course, are going to be exactly the same. Definitely a luxurious feel. So Silverleaf is the first option. The upgrade is to Goldleaf. It's around about £500 per person to upgrade from Silverleaf to Goldleaf. As you can see here, Goldleaf does have slightly larger windows, a bit more of a full dome panoramic effect. All alcohol is included on board along with your food. One of the other differences is that Goldleaf is a double-decker carriage. So whereas in Silverleaf, you have your meals served to your seat. In Goldleaf, you do go downstairs to the lower level of the carriage and you have your own dining area where you enjoy breakfast and lunch. So breakfast and lunch is included both days. Dinner isn't included on board the train because you arrive into Kamloops and into the Rocky Mountains at around about 5-6 o'clock in the evening. So you actually have dinner in the destinations, but lunch and breakfast is included on board. Also, the open air vestibule that there was a picture of earlier, I'll just move back to that, excuse me. You see here, that is only available to Goldleaf customers. So Silverleaf doesn't have this option. That's on the lower level just by the dining car for Goldleaf. So both are luxury experiences. Goldleaf does offer that little bit more, but it does come at an additional price point of about £500 per person. Picture here of the Rocky Mountaineer Goldleaf dining car. Tables for 4 there. Of course, it's a communal affair on board the Rocky Mountaineer. You're going to get to know your fellow passengers quite well if you'd like to, and you'll share lunch and breakfast with them as well. You can see the food there, freshly prepared on board. Looks like some nice fish and nice salmon there. And as I say, it's fantastic, the food. It's an a la carte menu. There's a wine list as well for you to choose from in Goldleaf. It's a very high-end cuisine on board the train, as you would expect for a luxury service. As I mentioned, you do spend a night in a small town called Kamloops on your way between Vancouver and the Rocky Mountains. You just have a few hours in the evening here, but there is some nice restaurants and bars. They often have live music as well. And of course, it's very, very picturesque, so a nice place to spend the evening on your journey from Vancouver through to Banff. On this particular holiday, we do also include what's known as the Banff Gondola, which is this huge cable car that takes you from Banff to the top of Sulphur Mountain. And from the summit, you'll have a fantastic bird's eye view of the Banff National Park and the Canadian Rockies. As I mentioned earlier again, you also get to spend a night on Lake Louise, and you get to stay at the iconic Fairmont Hotel. The Fairmont Hotel is the only hotel on the lake itself. As you can imagine, it sells out very, very quickly, especially in peak season, so you do have to get in early if you wish to stay there. About a 15-minute drive, there is the town of Lake Louise, and there are a few hotels there we can base you in, but really the whole reason to travel to Lake Louise is to stay in the Fairmont Hotel and have these gorgeous views out over the lake itself. So this being a bit more of a luxury holiday with the Rocky Mountaineer thrown in, we do add this touch of luxury into your stay in the Rocky Mountains at the Fairmont in Lake Louise. You also get some time again in Jasper. You will do the the same tours in between Jasper and Banff and Lake Louise. So you'll get the Ice Explore, you'll get the Columbia Parkway, you'll have all those included as well on this trip. And you'll finally end up back in Vancouver. This is a round trip. And one of the other options we have in Vancouver is called the Capilano Suspension Bridge. It's the longest suspension bridge in the world, 140 meters long and 70 meters high. This is not for me. I do not have a head for heights. You would not get, if you did, I'd be crawling across it. But if you do have a head for heights, this is absolutely spectacular. Our customers that enjoy this type of thing say it's one of the most remarkable experiences they've had. So this does come as part of the holiday. If this isn't something that is for you, then we can switch it out for any other tour we have in Vancouver. As I mentioned at the start of this webinar, we can tailor make our holidays to your liking, to your preferences, to your specifications. So if this isn't for you, we have plenty of other tours in Vancouver that will be to your taste, I'm sure. But if you do have a head for heights, definitely something to keep in. A fantastic experience just outside of central Vancouver. Okay, fourth holiday today is our Trans-Canada and Rockies adventure with Rocky Mountaineer. So this combines elements of the previous trips that we've already looked at. So it combines the trip on Via Rail from Toronto through to the Rocky Mountains with a trip on the Rocky Mountaineer through to Vancouver. So if you are looking to go coast to coast, or west to east, across Canada, and you want a touch of luxury thrown in as well, then the Trans-Canada and Rockies adventure with the Rocky Mountaineer is definitely a great option for you. So this is around about a 2-week holiday, 13 days, 12 nights. A little bit of a higher price point than the others, again, because you're including the Rocky Mountaineer in with the full Via Rail service. So it starts from £4,249 per person. A couple of nights in Toronto. To start with, we spoke about Toronto a little bit earlier, and it is known for its kind of metropolis, as I mentioned, but it does have some greenery. It does have some history. It has a castle here called the Casa Loma, which is located in the midtown of Toronto. It's regarded as a real treasured heritage landmark as well. We do include a trip out to the castle while you're in Toronto. So we do try and make sure that you get out to some unexplored areas of these cities as well to experience things that perhaps some other travelers might not, should they be unawares that they exist. You also get to spend some time again on Lake Louise, which we saw just a moment ago. You can, if you like, take a kayak out onto the lake. Another reason to make sure that we can book that hotel for you. The Fairmont's right on the lake, so you can get out and you can imagine the air, how fresh it would be kayaking over the lake, and the incredible views of the glaciers and the Rocky Mountains in the background. So fantastic place to spend a night and a day on Lake Louise. And I also mentioned earlier the Glacier Skywalk. So I did want to show you a picture of this spectacular views of the glacier. Again, like the suspension bridge, you kind of need a head for heights for this one, especially with that glass bottom floor, but I don't need to say too much. The picture says it all, really, and the photographs that you'll get yourselves will be enough to express how amazing it was, I'm sure, when you show them to your friends and family back home. So again, if this is something that's for you, it's one of our most popular options out in the Rocky Mountains, is this incredible Glacier Skywalk. If you haven't got a head for heights, and perhaps you don't fancy the Glacier Skywalk, at the same time as that, we do also offer a scenic lake cruise in Banff. So if you'd rather take in the sights from the comforts of a boat on the lake rather than a glass bottom bridge over the valley, then we can include a scenic lake cruise in Banff, which is a couple of hours relaxing on board the lake with a very experienced captain who talk you through the area, again, the wildlife, the culture and the history of the surrounding area. Really nice relaxing journey for you. Okay, and the final holiday we're going to look at today is our Western USA and Canada journey. So combining the west coast of the USA with Vancouver, Jasper, and then 3 nights on board the Via Rail service. Again, so just to mention here, all of our holidays can be tailor-made. So if you were looking at this and thinking, well, I really fancy the idea of taking a trip from San Francisco up to Vancouver, but then instead of doing the Via Rail service, I'd like to take the Rocky Mountaineer for a bit more luxury over to Jasper, and I'd also like to include Banff and Lake Louise into this particular trip before traveling on to Toronto, we can tailor-make this particular option for you so that it fits in with exactly what you want from your holiday. So again, these are just ideas. There are so many different variations on all of these holidays that we may not necessarily have the one that fits exactly to you, but that doesn't mean that we can't create it for you. But anyhow, this holiday is 2 nights in San Francisco, then 1 night on board the Coast Starlight service up to Seattle, 2 nights in Seattle, day service up to Vancouver, 2 nights in Vancouver, 1 night on board Via Rail, 2 nights in Jasper, and then 3 nights on board Via Rail for a final 2 nights in Toronto. So 16 nights, 17 days. This one starting from £3,499 per person. Starts in San Francisco, the city by the bay. We do include, as we do in a lot of these cities, a hop on, hop off pass. The reason we do that is because it acts as your transport around the city while you're there. So it means that you don't need to worry too much about getting around, and it takes you to all those major sites. If it's the first time you've been to these destinations, we know that your time's precious. So we want to give you a helping hand to be able to make sure you get to all those sites in the most time effective way. Also includes a pass for a guided tour of the city as well. Take you to Fisherman's Wharf, Golden Gate Park, Golden Gate Bridge. If you are active, I would highly recommend hiring some bikes and cycling over the Golden Gate Bridge. Fantastic way to do it. There's a lovely little area called Sausalito just over the other side of the Golden Gate Bridge where you can get some lunch before cycling back. It's a really nice city to explore by bicycle as well, San Francisco. It's also got the famous trams as well, very European trams to get about in San Francisco. So fantastic place to spend a couple of days before jumping on board the Coast Starlight. Along with the California Zephyr, probably the most popular and scenic train journey in North America. It'll take you up to the northwest past rolling hills, mountains, rocky gorges, stony rivers, pine forests, and of course up and around the Atlantic coastline through Oregon and Washington. Really is a sightseeing experience of itself, the Coast Starlight. So really glad that we get to show you some of the rail in the US as well. It's a really nice way to combine the two countries, I think, taking the Coast Starlight up the west coast of the US. So once you disembark, you'll be in Seattle, where you can see the iconic Space Needle, of course, in Seattle. Also the famous Thule Gardens. Really nice city just for its breathtaking views as well, Seattle. You don't often hear that, but surrounding seas, mountains, of course. So really nice place just to relax and take in the surrounding area. Also very famous for the Pike Place Market, one of the most famous farmers markets in the world. Lots of street performers, antiques, treasure hunts, things like that. Really great place for tourists to get a feel for the city itself and get to meet some of the locals at Pike Place Market. And again, as you can imagine, we do include a hop on, hop off pass of the city, so you can get to all the popular landmarks with ease. And just a reminder, you get to spend some time in Vancouver as well. And another option we have in Vancouver is the Vancouver Lookout. And after your time in Jasper and on board service of Via Rail, you'll finish up in Toronto with that fantastic view of the CN Tower. Okay, so they're the 5 holidays we're going to look at today. So we're just going to finish up by taking a look at what life is like on board the Via Rail services themselves. So there are some different levels of service, different levels of accommodation on board the trains. First class of service on Via Rail is just its economy. For that first holiday that you saw, the Great Eastern cities of Canada, economy service is absolutely fine. You're not taking any overnight services there, so we would recommend economy. But of course, if you are going to be traveling across Canada and spending any time overnight on board the trains, then we would highly recommend upgrading to the sleeping accommodation on board. The most popular option for sleeping accommodation is what's known as the cabin for 2. This is a private cabin, locked door, away from the main carriage itself. Each cabin features, as you can see there, 2 armchairs, has a closet for you to put your luggage in, has a private toilet and sink as well. Doesn't have a shower in the cabin for two. Showers are shared with the other guests in this particular carriage, so usually shared between around six to eight guests. By night, the armchairs will fold down. There'll be a bed pulled down from the top, and it will convert into comfortable bunk beds. You've got that picture window there, of course, so you can see all the sights as they pass between Vancouver and Jasper and Toronto if you're going all the way across Canada. So this is the most popular option for traveling across Canada on board the VRL service, the cabin for two. You'll also be brought teas and coffees to your cabin throughout the day by the assistant, and you have assistants, attendants, throughout your journey to answer any questions that you might have, provide you with drinks and snacks. And as soon as you upgrade to any of the sleeping berths on board VRL, all of your meals are included as well. So there is a bit of a price jump, as you can imagine, between the economy seats and the cabin for two. But a lot of that expense is actually taken out by the fact that all your meals, your breakfast, lunch and dinner are included throughout the journey. Whereas if you sit in economy for the journey, you do have to buy your meals on board the train. The most luxurious way to travel across Canada on board VRL is in one of the prestige bedrooms, the prestige cars. There are only 6 of these high-end sleeper cabins on each service. They're about 50% larger than those cabins for two that we just saw. They have these huge panoramic windows. You've got that double bed. There's the only way to get a double bed on board is to book one of these prestige bedrooms, perfectly positioned there. So when you wake up, you're looking straight out of that huge window at the fantastic scenery. By day, that folds down. Of course, you do have an L-shaped couch, turns into a really nice lounge area for you. You have a private washroom and a private shower with the Prestige. Again, it's the only way to get not only a double bed, but only way to get a private shower as well. There's a flat screen TV, video selection, your own mini bar, heated floors, heated walls, very comfortable environment for you, personalized service as well from your own Prestige concierge. And you do have private access to the Prestige Park skyline and panorama viewing cars, which we'll take a look at now. So you have exclusive access to this with just yourself and the 5 other travelers that are in the Prestige cabins. It's a really, really luxurious way to travel across Canada. Finally, you do have your own private bar area as well. So very, very exclusive, very luxurious, fantastic way to travel across Canada. If you wanted to do one of these trips in complete luxury, you would look to do the Rocky Mountaineer from Vancouver through to Jasper, BANFF and Lake Louise, and then take the Prestige service from Jasper to Toronto, or vice versa. You can do east to west or west to east, of course, whatever your preference is. For those not in the Prestige cabins, there are these fantastic dome cars. So anybody that upgrades to any of the sleeping berths does have access to the dome cars, these extra large carriages with these huge panoramic windows, so you can admire the breathtaking scenery on board. Take a glass of wine, a book, and just watch the world go by would be my recommendation. A lot of the time actually won't be spent in your cabins, as you can imagine. A lot of the time will be spent in the dome cars, and I've traveled on board this service myself. I was lucky enough to do it between Jasper and Toronto, and every time I went to the dome car, I was able to get a seat. I think there were 2 or 3 of the dome cars on board, so it isn't like you're crammed for space. You don't have to queue to get in. Quite often there's always a space available, and it's just a really, really nice way to relax and enjoy the Canadian scenery. Just lastly, we'll have a quick look at the onboard dining. So as I mentioned, as soon as you upgrade to the cabin for 2 or the Prestige, all your food is served to you on board the train. Much like the Rocky Mountaineer, all meals are freshly prepared on board. There's an a la carte menu. They do cater for all, meat, fish, vegetarian, vegan as well. Just let us know if you have any allergies or any specific requests when it comes to your food. The food is very, very good. As I say, it's all freshly prepared. It'll be from the local regions as well. We've got a picture actually of a rack of lamb, I think there, a glass of wine, some nice potatoes, veg. So really, really good 3-course meal on board for the evenings. You get your breakfast and your lunch included as well. Obviously depends on the time of day that you're on board the train, but if you're there for the 2 nights, or 3 nights, 2 days, excuse me, then you're going to get breakfast, lunch, and dinner twice throughout the journey. So really, really nice way again to meet your fellow travelers, I think. And you've got the choice of either a table for 4 or a table for 2 if you just want the privacy. If you're traveling as a 2, then great. Of course, as well, a lot of our guests take these trips as solo travelers. So if you are a solo traveler, of course, you can take these holidays as well. And it's a really nice way to make friends, meet different travelers, find out about their experiences. And as I say, make it a bit more of a communal trip while you're on board. Okay, so that takes to the end of today's webinar. I do hope there's been some inspiration for you. I do hope that you've seen something that perhaps is to your liking. If you do have any questions, then please don't hesitate to give us a call. If you do want, perhaps to learn a bit more about what else we offer, jump onto the website at railbookers.co.uk or download some of those brochures. But we really do look forward to hearing from you. And even if you're not sure just yet what you'd like to do and you just want a few ideas, then give us a call. We're always on standby to talk to you about any questions you might have and start to help you plan out that next holiday. So all that remains is for me to say thank you very much. I do appreciate you taking the time to listen to this webinar today. I do hope that it's been helpful and enjoyable for you, and hopefully we'll see you all again soon. Thanks very much, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.